All right. As the printer world turns, I've got the printer going here in the background because I've got kids here printing because they're at school, right? So
Yeah.
shout out to everybody. Listen, we're here for episode number 188 of the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. And so we were just listening here to the sound of my printer because, again, my daughter is printing for her class. So many of you are maybe going through that right now. You've started school or you're soon to start school. And if you haven't, let me tell you, the virtual school is something interesting to say the least. Watching kids on Zoom and watching some of their faces and hiding their video and whether they can mute themselves or not is
Hmm.
interesting, just to say the least. But going beyond that, we're going to have a great conversation today around CRM, which is customer relationship management and CRM tools that many of you are familiar with. I've got my tremendous guest today that is joining. Jeroen Corthout is joining today. And he is the co-founder and CEO of Salesflare. That's salesflare.com, salesflare.com. Go to salesflare.com and check this out. And you're going to learn more about the business, about the company today. And NYB, you know how critical CRM is to what many of us do. The relationship with the customer or the client is even more important than it's ever been, given what's going on in the state of the current world impacted pandemic. And
Hmm.
so, Jeroen, yeah, man, listen, it's so great to have you, man, and thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm really glad to be here.
Yep, excellent, man. So let's dive right in, man. Tell us who you are and kind of how you got to what you're doing today.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Jeroen Corthout. I'm without the anglicizing Jeroen Corthout, the co-founder and CEO of Salesflare. Salesflare is a sales CRM system, so it's a CRM system focused mostly on sales purposes with some marketing features as well. That is built for B2B businesses, so that's businesses selling to other businesses, mostly small and medium-sized ones. So the
Sure.
ones who are actually looking for a practical sales tool as end users, rather than enterprises looking for some big system where management can like customize all the software processes that happen. That's not what we offer. We offer something you can just use out of the box, and it
Sure.
works.
Yeah, excellent. So oftentimes with CRM, right now I'm a current user of another CRM platform that's pretty loud, or I say pretty loud, pretty big.
Yeah, big.
Loud too. Shit. Yeah, they're loud too.
Yeah.
So yeah, how would you compare your software with the CRM in terms of how it compares with other CRMs that tend to be, have a lot of bells and whistles, but also I found to be very reporting intensive,
Hmm.
which could be good, but I imagine Salesflare is probably a little different. And so kind of compare and contrast, if you would, Yaron, with, your software and your company to other companies.
Yeah. No, I think you already sort of nailed it there. Why we started Salesflare is I had a lot of experience using a large and loud CRM as well, this Salesforce.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a practical sales tool for me. The CEO of the company where I used to work really loved it,
Yeah.
because he could like build all his reports in there. And he could customize it the way he liked it and stuff. And we would use it at customers as well, actually, because we would serve pharmaceutical companies and organize all kinds of marketing sales campaigns for them.
Yeah.
Um, and it was my first CRM, and I really thought it was supposed to be something to help me sell better. And I never really got to that level.
Yeah.
I just went back. I started using my Outlook again. At the time, I don't use Outlook anymore, but back then I was
Right.
like organizing everything in Outlook. And I had my Wonder list, but also doesn't exist anymore because Microsoft bought it and killed it off.
Yeah.
They call it Microsoft To Do now.
Right.
And I organize all my sales in there. And then about 6 years ago. My current co-founder and I, we were working on another software company, and we had a bunch of leads. Like we went to a conference in Vegas, which was an IBM conferences. They have a big conference a year, and
Yeah.
we sold this software that was compatible to one of their systems. And we had so many leads from that conference. It was about 120, I think, good leads, which
Wow.
was we were over the moon, and we started trying to organize that properly, and our systems just couldn't take it. We knew that Salesforce was not going to solve it. We looked at other CRMs and never really found something that actually helped selling properly.
Mm-hmm.
We started organizing ourselves in a Google Sheet, and then even then we found that the issue went beyond that. It was also the fact that we had to constantly fill it out, be
Mm-hmm.
very disciplined, always put in the latest thing that we did, what their details were, when we were going to follow up again, all these kind of things. And we just failed at that. And then we started figuring like maybe there's a better way. Maybe we can build a system that makes that we don't have to log all the things that we do, because we figured actually all these things that we do are already in another system. Like when we're emailing someone, that's in our inbox.
Right.
They email us back with an email signature that we start copying into whatever we're using. There's obviously in the email there's their name and email address, but in the email signature there's often their phone number, which is something typical that you copy, or what they do, or things like that.
Right.
We have meetings on our calendar, we have calls in our phones. The phone has a full call history. There's social media stuff, there's company databases. And we felt sort of like robots who were pulling all this information together, which didn't make sense to us. So then we thought, what if we make a system that pulls this information together for us?
Yeah.
Because that's what software is for, and makes it easy for us to sort of curate that information,
Sure.
so that it keeps track of all the customer information, keeps track of all the things we're discussing with them. And then we also immediately thought, why don't we also then integrate a full email tracking and website tracking solution? So it actually tracks the whole customer journey, customer conversation, let's say. Because we were selling to business intelligence software people.
Yeah.
And they work on very big projects, which span over a year. So you need to follow up very well, and they're not very responsive. So email tracking was big for us. It made that we could see exactly whether they were interested, whether they were still checking our emails, whether they clicked on what we sent them. And we had different products on the site. So it was also interesting to us which ones of those they were looking at. So we had a better idea of their interests.
Yeah, definitely. So let me go here because and my mind's racing because I use like say a CRM, and you mentioned about social media. So does Salesflare incorporate or kind of transition any kind of social media interaction that you may have, say with a prospect or a customer? So I know your software is kind of more tailored to B2B. And so if I'm dealing with John at XYZ company, will Salesflare go out and find, if John makes a post in social media, will it find and, like you say, curate and kind of synthesize that information into the software?
So it can pull this in nowadays for Twitter. So if you have his Twitter account, which Salesforce often also automatically pulls in for you, because we get information from a database called Full Contact, which immediately enriches the company information, so you don't have to put it all in yourself, and it also enriches the contact information often. But then if it has a Twitter account, it can pull in a timeline for actually all other major social media. They have all blocked this off. So they don't allow you to pull in feeds outside of their platform because they're afraid you're not spending time in their platform.
Right.
LinkedIn even makes everything impossible. They make it even impossible for you to export your contacts with their email address. That's not even possible anymore. It's like,
right. Yeah, that's wild. It's just wild, the way they do it. But they're Microsoft, so like I said, I understand. You could understand at that point. So why would someone listening to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Jeroen, why would they switch from whatever CRM they're using right now to Salesflare? What would be, I guess, the top one or two compelling reasons on why they would do that?
Yeah. Frame a bit, they're best B2B because we built everything for B2B. So central in the software is accounts, so companies you're selling to. We have some customers using it for B2C as well if they really love it. But they need to go through the extra step of having an account for a contact.
Yeah,
It's built for small and medium-sized businesses. So, like I said, Salesforce is great for enterprises. You can build anything in it. It's really if you're focused more on improving your sales, then you're focused on all the internal workings in the company. Let's say
yeah,
that's sort of the where the balance
yeah.
tips.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I worked for a large bank. Well, that's how
Mm-hmm.
actually how I got introduced to CRM was early in my career. I got introduced to a large CRM to Salesforce.com, and it was like you say, an enterprise solution. There was a lot integrated into it that made it really cool and really efficient from a
Mm.
reporting standpoint. So everything seemed to be designed to provide upstream reporting, right? So, you know, under the guise that anybody in the company, right, could know what anyone's doing with a customer. So that, obviously, again, when you think of large companies, they know that they're
Mm.
going to have a lot of turnover. And so their concern is that Ron leaves, what was Ron working on with XYZ company or XYZ person? And it seemed like everything was designed around that. And so with what you're explaining with Salesflare, what I like is you're tailoring it back to, the relationship, right? And how you're developing your relationships with the contacts at that company, not
Mm-hmm.
so much how much or how pretty you can make the report that goes upstream from each level of management. And so
Yeah.
that's something that I really took away from what you were sharing, which is tremendous. And that's where I'm looking at, and was reading earlier about using Salesflare because to me it gets down to the nitty gritty of what I really need CRM to do for me, which is,
Mm-hmm.
like you say, curate and synthesize information. So then I can use it to build relationships and not to
Exactly.
report on my activity per se.
Yeah, and to be clear, companies use Salesforce as well to report on their revenue, how well they're doing there, to report on how salespeople are doing, and it's also used, especially by businesses to when a salesperson goes away, then to be able to pick up because that's a really painful moment when a salesperson has been building up all these relationships. That salesperson goes away and you have to start from scratch. That's
Right.
just yeah. So that's definitely an important use as well, but it's focused on helping people sell with the least amount of data input and work, which makes that the CRM then actually is used and that it also works for these other purposes. Because if there's no incentive for a salesperson to be using a CRM, it's also going to fail in the other respects. Like the reporting is going to be bad, and then at some point somebody goes away and they're like, oh, let's look in the CRM what they did, and you only find like, I don't know, depends, 30%, 60% of what they've been doing is actually in there.
Right.
Then it's also very hard to make that happen.
Yeah, and so you're talk about that piece of it then with me because how easy is it for someone like me to input data into Salesflare, right? Because it seems like it's capturing a lot of data, so there's not as many inputs. I found
Mm-hmm.
with Salesforce that, and they've gotten better over the years, but there's still a lot of data entry that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even once you have everything set up with a customer, and you mentioned it earlier, I do this a lot. I copy and paste emails kind of back and
Mm.
forth. I get an email from a customer or prospect. I copy and paste that in the Salesforce, and that way it's dated. I can
Oh,
report on it and that sort of thing. But, I still have to manually do a lot of that,
what are you
which takes
using?
a,
Is it
s-
Gmail or Outlook or
so using Outlook.
Outlook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so from,
So if you're using Outlook in our system, it's as easy as this. You install the Outlook plugin.
Mm-hmm.
And that Outlook plugin next to your emails, it shows you the contacts that are in that email, but also the company they belong to.
Mm.
So it shows you it's this company, the name, the logo, some extra information that we found. These are
Yeah.
the people you know there. We know that based on your inbox because you've been communicating with different people at a company. You
Yeah.
may be having meetings with them, and then we
Sure.
sort of pre-create the contacts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using it also with colleagues, then it will also show you, okay, these are also other people that your colleagues know. And
Yeah.
when you click on them, you can see how well they're connected with them. There's a sort of Wi-Fi symbol that shows you, okay, this is like a little connection, there's a big connection.
Yeah.
Um, and the only thing you need to do to add that company into Salesflare is there's a big create account button.
Mm-hmm.
You click that button. At that moment, that company is in Salesflare with all the information that we pre-filled. And the contacts that it already knows are
Mm-hmm.
suggested on the account with a little green check mark or a red cross. And then you can decide, like, I want to add that one. I don't want to add that one. I want to add that one.
Ah.
And
Uh,
everything is automatically added. That's all you need to
well,
do. This is like
well.
a few clicks.
All right. So you're kind of speaking my language here because one of the frustrating points with using other CRMs that you
Mm-hmm.
just it seems like you've solved that problem is, I'm like I mentioned to you, I talk to a lot of banks and I may have several contacts within the bank. It could be the bank CEO, it
Mm-hmm.
could be the bank's CRA officer, it could be their compliance officer, it could be their chief lending officer, whoever it is, right? And so I'm constantly always having to add and update, these
Yeah.
contacts all the time. And like you meant, we were talking about earlier, if one leaves or is replaced, then I've got to get that person's contact info. And then, the issue that it has, and we talked about building relationships and sales is,
Mm-hmm.
I look like a dumbass when I mail something out to John Smith and John Smith's been gone for 6 months or 3 months
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and I'm mailing him stuff to the bank, then it looks like I'm not in touch. And, again, what am I doing out here?
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that because then if I get an email from, say, John Smith's replacement, I can automatically, it seems like, have that routed right to the company with his or her contact info. And so now I look smarter, like I know what's going on and I know what the hell I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Because now I can email Jill, the new replacement, right off the bat, versus having to do all this manual stuff, which again takes away from building the relationship. And I think that's something, and probably a lot of people listening to this are kind of nodding their head because they're like, okay, if I can, the less data entry points I can have, the more time I can spend actually talking with Jill, right? And actually,
Exactly.
sharing information and solving pain points and, everything that you do that ultimately then drives the relationship, which drives commerce, right? Drives
Mm-hmm.
revenue and that sort of thing. So, I love that piece and that's very intriguing.
Yeah, those are actually, yeah, you kind of nailed the first landing page I ever made for Salesflare. It's really,
Yeah.
I think it said something like, spend less time on data input or something so you can spend more time on with your customers.
Yeah.
Now we sort of frame it differently, less work, more sales.
Yeah.
But it's often we still say that as well. It's indeed about um, minimizing the sort of software time, the time you
Mhm.
need to manage your software,
Yeah.
and maximizing the amount of customer time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we were talking some about, reporting, but obviously, Salesforce still generates some level of reporting, of course, that
Yeah.
whether you need to pull your book of business or, say pull companies that are between X amount of revenue to X amount of revenue, that sort of thing, or contacts. I'm
Also.
sure it has those basic reports that you definitely need that you can use. But like you say, Salesforce is just loaded with a gazillion reports, and there's all this customization that you can do. And they're always contacting me about wanting to do this and do that, which always has this upcharge. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, again, yeah, again, I'm not here to not business. Everybody's got their place, right? And that's the beautiful thing about free enterprise. But I look at, for me personally, what works best, right?
Mhm.
And I'm a very small company, kind of independent consultant. Is that a lot of who you work with? A lot of smaller
Um,
companies, or
yeah, we started off with just only smaller companies,
Yeah.
but we still do a lot of small companies. So currently it's anywhere between 1 and 35 users. So let's say companies of 1 to 200 people. I think our biggest company is,
Yeah.
well, the one with the most users is probably a company of 250 people or something.
Yeah.
That's what we serve. Those are the ones that are looking for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Salesforce has its place in the bigger ones,
Sure.
where you really want something that is fully adapted to your company. Like the software needs to fully adapt to the company instead of the company getting something that works. Is
Sure.
a completely different focus there.
Yeah.
Um, they actually, Salesforce for a while sold a separate small business CRM.
Oh, did they?
Uh, yeah, they did for I think about 3 years, but then they killed that again. They went back with their big CRM system in a slimmed down version called Essentials,
Yeah.
because it's just the easiest way for them to if a company grows, then also put them on the bigger plans. But it's not a great match, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. So Jeroen, let's take a little bit of a step back with you and
Mm-hmm.
with your co-founder. When you got started, and you were building out Salesflare, did you have a lot of capital saved up? So did you guys have a lot of money saved up that you were
No,
able to just kind of go do it, or did you raise money, or did you kind of bootstrap it, or?
no. We got money a bit of everywhere. We didn't have a lot of money. In the beginning, I didn't get a salary, which was hard for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, when at the moment we started, I was working part time,
Okay.
which was a great thing, and I would recommend to everyone who's starting out with a company, because starting a company can often take way longer than you'd expect.
Right.
And there's a moment to take the leap, but there's a long while also where I think it's very dangerous to take the leap,
Sure.
because many companies don't work out. They don't find that you don't get them validated, let's say, and that's the what you're supposed to do in that time you're part time.
Yeah.
I personally had uh, a few projects before Salesflare that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But the way we approached it is like we need money to be
Yeah.
able to focus on this full time.
Sure.
So we looked around, and there was this program online called Kima 15. It was something of Kima Ventures back then, that you could get 150K for 15% of your business within 15 days. Everything would be arranged.
Oh, wow.
So we applied for that. We built a deck. We built a prototype, all these kind of things. They denied us because we were too early stage, which was sort of right because we just started.
Yeah.
uh, but we used that deck and that prototype to then apply at an incubator, an accelerator, and we got into both. From
Sure.
the accelerator, we got 25K in euros for us.
Yeah.
And then we actually got another accelerator where we got 50K. And then we got some subsidies. That's a thing in Europe. You can get subsidies for all kinds of stuff if you do
Sure.
innovative things.
Yeah.
And then we got a bank loan from the bank for 100K. And like that, we sort of started building up money to do our thing. Because in the beginning, we're a SaaS business, or a software as a service business,
Yeah.
which means we sell software subscriptions. And the subscriptions, in our case, it's a 30 or 35 per user per month.
Yeah.
You need to build up a whole lot of customers to actually have a business.
Right.
It's
Of
very
course.
hard. It's a lot of investment in the beginning, so
Yeah.
you need some money in the beginning to get that going. And we had to raise quite some left and right to get to this level. But
Yeah.
to anyone who's wanting to go on this track, in the beginning, I would just work part time, or if you can't do that, work in the evenings, or until you get to a point where you feel comfortable, or maybe not comfortable completely,
Yeah.
but at least you can take the leap.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there challenges in building up the customer base, initially? I know you mentioned there was a lot of investment, probably time, money, a lot of different things,
Yeah.
Joran, that you guys had to, endure as you build up customers. Because, listen, I mean, at $35 a head, I mean, you got to get a lot of
Hmm.
heads,
Yeah.
right? Were there challenges in doing that? And then, how did you guys market in those early days to kind of build your business up?
Early days were not at all about marketing.
Yeah.
It took us a long while to get customers. It was pretty scary. I think so. We got the idea in April 2014, and we started building in September
Okay.
after doing all kinds of stuff like the deck I talked about and the prototype, and we did some other stuff. But we started building in September. I think our first customer. Yeah, it took us a year to get our first customer, and
Wow.
then
A
we had
year.
one customer with 6 users, which doesn't really pay the bills.
Right.
Um, and then it took us more than a year to get to 20 or 30 customers, which still doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
And it's only at that point actually that we really started marketing.
Yeah.
The whole period until 20, 30 customers was us actually selling.
Mm-hmm.
This was finding the customers, giving them demos, onboarding them on the product, showing them around, and then giving support, closing the deal. The whole thing was me on Skype back then,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
helping them with everything, and that's a good thing because it helps you to really understand your customers quite well. It
Right.
has a higher close rate, and you see all the embarrassing moments in
Mm-hmm.
the sales process and the process of adopting your product if that's what you're selling, so that you can actually take that and improve and then take the next step where you sort of scale that sales into more and more marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so today, do you guys have, salespeople, sales and marketing people that are kind of driving that for you, or are you and your co-founder still heavily involved in the selling piece and that sort of thing?
I'm still running most of the marketing. It has changed back and forth a bit over time.
Sure.
Currently, I'm doing it largely myself, helped by Carrie, who's taking care of partnerships.
Yeah.
Then Taylor is doing support for us, which is also sort of the sales function as well. I'm also jumping on some sales calls.
Sure.
Uh, so yeah, we're actually running Salesflare right now with a team of 7 people,
Wow.
of which my co-founder is more focused on product and development,
Yeah.
together with 3 developers, and then there's Carrie, Taylor, and myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent. So a team of 7 driving that.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So what do you see next on the horizon for Salesflare? What are maybe some things that you can share, of course, that you guys are
Uh,
looking for, or where you'd like to see the software go here in the next few years?
Yeah, so we've in April we launched this really cool we call it email workflows feature.
Yeah.
For those who know email sequences, that's sort of what it is. So you can send sequences of emails to people in an automated way that
Sure.
are like fully personalized in the sense from your inbox. Um, it's something built into Salesflare, and you can also trigger on all the data you have in Salesflare. You can say like, send this email to people who are in that stage of the pipeline that I haven't heard in that many days, things like that. But we want to take that further, so beyond emails, to also incorporate things like creating a task automatically to do something or sending an SMS and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, Next to that, currently we're working on some features for slightly bigger customers to get some more revenue. We're launching a higher plan. So for this, there's part of our customers that are happy to pay a bit more to get things like permissions and custom dashboards.
Sure. Sure.
Um, so that's what we're working on right now. And then from there, yeah, we don't really plan super far ahead with our features, but we keep very close track of what our customers want. Anytime anybody asks something, it's written down, linked to the person. We list features by how many people asked. We start prioritizing from there. We have some other metrics that we look at, and then that goes into a whole development pipeline. And when things get live, we tell people personally that what they asked for is there now. We ask for feedback, and then we take that back again. So it's a whole process to get Salesflare always improving. So.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. I mean, I like that, the continuous improvement that your team you and your team are working on to improve Salesflare there at salesflare.com. For you, Jeroen, do you have family there? You and your co-founder, do you have, I don't know if you have a big family or if you got, any family kind of there with you at all. And if so, what's been their involvement or support of you in building your business?
Uh, it's a very good question. Most people don't talk to me too much anymore about my business. I mean, they know I'm doing something, and it's getting a bit repetitive to always ask like, "And how is Salesforce doing?" And I'm like, "Good."
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
This and
Right.
my wife is very supportive of all the podcasts that I do, like this,
Sure.
a bit after hours and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So that's really great. We are just a family of two for now, with
Okay.
a dog, which you
Awesome.
probably heard snoring at some
Yeah, I
point.
heard your dog because I've got two dogs here too, so I know that sound.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, exactly. So no, that's
Yeah.
good. It's always good, to have at least some level of support, obviously from family and friends and those that are close to you
Hmm.
as you embark, and like you mentioned earlier, of transitioning. Right, that's often where a lot of the support is really needed, is when you're transitioning from, say, the workforce to business
Definitely.
ownership, which is could mean some maybe a little bit less food on the table, maybe your lifestyle's not quite the same,
Hmm.
but you build that up over time, um, and if you
Those are
really,
some of the hardest times, indeed. Yeah.
yeah, yep, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Let me ask you a fun question. If I were to send over, because I'm here in Memphis, Tennessee, here in the United States, so I'm a good bit
Yeah.
away from you. But if I were to send over $100 million in cash to you,
Mm.
no strings attached, no nothing, other than just me being benevolent, and I've got a spare 100 million sitting around. If I
Hmm.
were to send that over to you, what would be something you do with it, and why?
With the money,
Yeah, with the money.
that's a good question. I never thought about that. I'd probably use part of that money to make sure that I can do whatever I like, and whatever I like would be, I don't know. I'm pretty passionate about helping small businesses succeed. I've been
Sure.
thinking about some plans there and how I could do that. So I'd probably spend some time there and then use the money to be able to do that without
Yeah.
needing to get paid right away and all that. And then the other part of the money, I have no idea. Put it away somewhere and take a good hard look at it and think how I can use that money to save the world. I never had that, um, let's say, that comfortable issue. So I wouldn't know. I'm someone who likes to think for a long time about this then
Yeah.
before
Well, certainly,
deciding.
$100 in cash will allow you to think, some time to think. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm certainly you could build a lot of things with Salesflare and have that, definitely be an advocate resource for small business. There's probably all
Hmm.
kinds of things you could integrate into with that kind of money that you could integrate into your software, to have it benefit a lot of people and
Definitely.
change a lot of lives for the
Hmm.
better with that. So I'm sure you could find, like it sounds like you're thinking through, there'd be a civic uh, opportunity that would tie into your business that would probably be tremendous,
Hmm.
for us all. So yeah, that's definitely awesome. What are, as we kind of come to a close here,
Mm-hmm.
What are one or two just best practices overall? I mean, obviously you've endured, right? You and your co-founder have, created something that I think is tremendous, and
Mm-hmm.
has a huge positive impact for folks like me out there, right? That are young
Mm-hmm.
in business, and need ways to connect with people, especially during this pandemic. I mean, I can't stress that point enough. Is that using CRMs, like this, is a great way to keep track of your contacts, and that's what you're going to have to do when people are distracted with a lot of different things that are going on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so what are just one or two things that have worked well for you, that you'd like to share with the audience that you think would work well with them?
Yeah. When you first phrased the question, the first thing that's going to mind is when you're starting a business. I see a lot of people starting businesses around solutions, like very specific to solution to something, and these kind of businesses are not always very sustainable. Let's say,
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to start a business that endures, it's a good idea to focus on something you're passionate about in terms of problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where you say, for instance, I'm really passionate about customer relationships, and the issue I'm seeing is that there's systems out there, supposedly CRMs, that are supposed to solve that, but they don't because they're not properly used. So that's the issue we're going to solve. And if you pick a very fundamental problem there, um, that the solutions might be half there, but there's still an enormous room for improvement. And it's a business you can be building out for a long while, and where there's a lot of future. And you will always find new ways of solving the issue,
Mm-hmm.
which means you can evolve as a business and you can stay ahead of competition and all the kind of things, which is really important. Um, then a second piece of advice, perhaps, as you got started,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you make sure that you don't run faster than you can. Sort of
Mm.
the
I
crawl,
like that.
walk, run approach. There's dangers in trying to market before you've sold something the first time. A lot of people try
Yeah.
that.
Right.
There's a danger in hiring someone for a job before you've actually tried to do it yourself.
I like that.
Um, for instance,
It's a good one.
when a lot of technical co-founders have that they like or founders, they start alone, they build their thing, and then they're like, and now I need somebody to sell it. No, you try to sell it first. Oh, but I'm technical and I don't know how sales works. Well, you just listen to people, you find the issues they have, and when you
Right.
really understand the issue, you formulate a solution. In the sales process, you always take the person to the next step of the buying process. It's your job to understand how people want to
Right.
buy. It's not extremely difficult. It's just a matter of listening and empathy and guiding people and all that. So if you're someone technical that builds something, first try it yourself. Because if you haven't done it, um, you cannot help a salesperson to sell it correctly. You're the person who is most intimate with the thing.
Right.
You don't know what to hire for in a salesperson. All these kind of things are. So really, that's a gradual approach where you try something, you nail it, and then that only then you sort of scale it.
Yeah. Well, I love your two kind of advice best practices. There you're in with, obviously solving a pain point, focusing on where the pain points are for people, as opposed to the solution right off the bat. I see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people do that. So yeah, generally businesses are derived or developed or incubated from solving a pain point. And so you
Mm-hmm.
focus on what that pain and understanding the pain point. Just because you see something common doesn't mean it's a pain point that then people will consistently pay to have resolved. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some vetting that has to be done with that. And then I love that that last point about not moving too fast, right, and understanding all the pieces, intricacies of your business, right? So, like you say, even if you're a technical minded person, you still need to understand sales. So you need to try to sell it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like you said, that's a point that I see impacts a lot of businesses. Is it's hard to bring in people to then sell your product or service if you've never done it and you don't know what the feedback is or what the pushback could be from the prospect, right? And so if you don't intimately understand that, then your salesperson can give you a lot of excuses if performance is not there, and you're not able to then synthesize whether it's an excuse or a reason, right?
For
That you're
sure.
being provided. And if you mistake a excuse for a reason, that could have a severe impact negatively on your business. And so I love that. I think that's, MYB community, I think that's great feedback for all of us to take. When you get done listening to this podcast and you say, what now? Those are two things to really consider. Whether you haven't started your business yet, or you've recently started, or you've been in business for many years, it's good to go back and consider what was just said. Jeroen, this has been a tremendous conversation, man. This
Thank
is
you.
just in a short period of time. I've really enjoyed this.
Me too.
MYB, it's salesflare.com. Go there. I'm going there to check it out myself. I encourage you to do the same. And consider using it as your primary CRM. And then go on and I think there's some contact opportunities there on the website. Share with Jeroen and his team your feedback. That's always good. Business owners love to get feedback. So share your
Definitely.
feedback, how you use it, when you started using it. Maybe take some pictures of you using it, share with them how you're, improving the relationships with your customers as a result. I'm sure Jeroen and his team would love to see that, and that can help them constantly improve, going forward, as they get a better understanding of how all of us utilize it. Right. And so I want to encourage MYB community to do just that. Jeroen Corthout is our guest today, co-founder, CEO of Salesflare, and that's salesflare.com. Again, I can't thank you enough, man. I appreciate you taking time. I know you're
Thank
in
you
a
very much.
completely another time zone, and was it late where you are, or is it really early? I imagine it's kind of late.
Uh, it's 6:23 right now in the evening.
Okay, so not
It's
overly.
okay.
It's not bad because where I'm at, it's 11:23 a.m. So
Yeah.
it's almost lunchtime. But listen,
Dinner
man.
here.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, so it's almost eating time for us both.
Yeah.
Listen, man. Best wishes to you personally and professionally, for you and
Thank you.
your family, and then your family at Salesflare. If you find I can be a resource, definitely let me know. And I'd love to have you come back as you add things to Salesflare, or maybe even you have a whole nother startup. I can kind of see it in you. You may start up a whole other business to go along with Salesflare. But tremendous website. I've been checking it out. I'm gonna do some more while I eat lunch here in a little bit. But thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I
All
really
right.
loved talking.
Excellent, man. All right, here. I'll check you later, man. Take care.
Take care.
All right. All right. That was Jeroen Corthout, co-founder, CEO of Salesflare.com. Make sure y'all go check that out, man. What did y'all think? I hope you liked that. I hope you found that an enjoyable dialogue with Jeroen. It's tremendous to have people internationally come on the podcast and share tools that we can all use. And like I said, CRM can be a very, very useful tool because you need to be, you can't have it all in your mind, and you won't have it all stored on your cell phone of who you're talking to and what you said and what deliverables come up next. You need to be able to track that, and then also get that off of your email. So you're not just relying on email to do that. So go to salesflare.com. Listen, brandyourpod.com is also where you need to go. I love to be your podcast partner and help you at all stages. I mentioned on the previous episode that I've got some great resources that have come up in the form of creatives that I'm looking to add on and have added on to the team out on the West Coast in the Portland area. And you'll hear more about that here soon. But Brand Your Pod, Brand Pod is my company. I'd love to be your podcast partner. I'm looking to help those that are looking to get into podcasting, whether you're a brand, an individual brand, or you're a company, and you're looking at ways, again, like I talked about with Jeroen, ways that you can connect with your customers, your clients, and your prospects. I want to be able to help you do that in the form of telling your story and sharing information on your own podcast platform. So go to brandyourpod.com. Also, speaking of software, financial software with leverage at leveragecout.com. I'm an equity partner with Leverage. I'm very excited about that. We've got a live demo coming on Wednesday, August the 26th at 12 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you go to brooksbrothersconsulting.com. That's brooksbrothersconsulting.com/leverage. brooksbrothersconsulting.com/leverage. That's where you could go. You can see a very, very short video about the financial software, and it's custom designed just for you. Those of you that are real estate investors or real estate professionals that are purchasing or refinancing commercial property, and or if you're a business owner and you're looking for a line of credit, you're looking for a term loan, you're looking to structure a debt vehicle to help you grow your business. This software helps you calculate. And wouldn't it be great for you to go to your banker and already know that you're going to be improved before you even talk to him or her? Wouldn't that be great? Right? Normally you're taking your financial information and you're taking it to the banker, and then they're constantly asking you, hey, can you give me this tax return? Can you give me this balance sheet? Give me this income statement, blah, blah, give me all this stuff. And then just to find out you're not even approved, or it's not even a financeable deal. Know all that before you even walk in the door. It gives you, again, leverage, hence the name. So go to brooksbrothersconsulting.com/leverage. Sign up for the free demo. It's going to be live. If you're not able to join live on Wednesday, August 26th at noon Central Time, if you're not able to join, register anyway. That way you can get a copy of the recording of the demo. Okay? Listen, I'm going to get out of here. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast. This has been episode number 188. Thanks again to our guest, Jeroen Corthout with Salesflare.com. Listen, you guys go be great for yourselves, be great for your family, and be great for your community.